Get ready for spine-tingling dread as we dive into 10 creepy true horror stories. In the dark corners of our world, truth is often more terrifying than fiction. Subscribe now and join us on a journey through the unknown.
The Malevolent Inheritance, a family's curse in the haunted manor. Story 1. The Forgotten Heirloom. In the dimly lit chambers of the old manor, the air hung heavy with the weight of history. The ancestral portraits lining the walls seemed to watch with hollow eyes as the last heir of the Montague family, Thomas, sifted through forgotten trinkets in the attic. Among the dusty relics, he discovered an ornate locket, its surface etched with intricate patterns. Ignoring the warnings whispered by the wind that rattled the windows, Thomas fastened it around his neck. The moment the clasp clicked shut, a chill swept through the room, and the very atmosphere seemed to tremble with foreboding. That night, as Thomas slept, his dreams were plagued by unsettling visions. Shadows danced at the edges of his consciousness, and a spectral voice whispered the secrets of a dark legacy. He awoke with a start, drenched in cold sweat, the locket clasped tightly in his hand. But it was not until the following night that the true horror of his inheritance revealed itself. As the clock struck midnight, Thomas found himself ensnared in a waking nightmare. The walls of the manor groaned with the weight of unseen forces, and the air grew thick with malice. A figure materialized before him, its features twisted into a grotesque parody of humanity. It was the spirit of a long-deceased matriarch, bound to the locket by a curse forged in blood and betrayal. With each step, she drew closer, her eyes blazing with an otherworldly fire. In a moment of clarity, Thomas understood the true nature of his inheritance. The locket was not a mere trinket, but a vessel for the vengeful spirit, cursed to seek retribution from the living. And as the shadows converged around him, Thomas knew that he was powerless to escape the fate that awaited him. For in the haunted depths of the Montague Manor, the sins of the past could never be laid to rest. As the specter drew closer, its presence seemed to suffocate Thomas, pressing down on him with an oppressive weight. He stumbled backward, his heart pounding in his chest, but there was nowhere to run, no sanctuary to be found within the confines of the cursed manor. Desperation clawed at Thomas's mind as he frantically searched for a way to break free from the ghostly apparition's grasp. With trembling hands, he reached for the locket hanging around his neck, hoping against hope that it held the key to his salvation. But as his fingers closed around the cold metal, a surge of malevolent energy coursed through him, searing his skin like icy fire. The locket, once a symbol of his family's legacy, had become a prison, binding him to the curse that had plagued his ancestors for generations. In a final act of defiance, Thomas tore the locket from his neck and hurled it into the darkness. For a fleeting moment, there was silence, broken only by the sound of his ragged breaths echoing through the empty halls. But then, with a deafening roar, the manor itself seemed to rebel against its own cursed existence. The walls trembled, and the very foundation shook as the spirit unleashed its fury upon the moral realm. With a sickening lurch, reality itself seemed to warp and twist, and Thomas found himself engulfed in a vortex of swirling shadows. As the world faded into darkness, he knew that he had become just another victim of the malevolent inheritance that had doomed his family for centuries. And in the cold, unforgiving embrace of the cursed manor, Thomas Montague joined the ranks of the tormented spirits that haunted its halls, his fate forever intertwined with the tragic legacy of his ancestors. Story 2: The Haunting Melody. In the heart of the Montague Manor, a grand piano stood silent, its keys untouched by human hands for decades. But when Emily, the youngest of the Montague lineage, stumbled upon the instrument hidden in the forgotten ballroom, she felt an irresistible pull. The ballroom, once a place of opulent gatherings and joyous revelry, now lay shrouded in shadows, its walls echoing with the whispers of the past. Yet, undeterred by the eerie atmosphere, Emily approached the piano with a sense of curiosity tinged with apprehension. As her fingers brushed against the ivory keys, a haunting melody filled the air, its notes resonating with a sorrowful lament that seemed to pierce the very soul. The sound was mesmerizing, hypnotic, drawing Emily deeper into its melancholy embrace. But as the music swelled to a crescendo, a chill swept through the room, and the temperature plummeted until Emily's breath hung in the air like mist. Unbeknownst to her, the piano held the soul of a tormented musician, cursed to eternally play his final composition as a penance for his sins. With each haunting chord, the boundaries between the living and the dead began to blur, and the once dormant spirits stirred from their restless slumber. Shadows danced at the edges of Emily's vision, their forms shifting and contorting in time with the music. As the last chord faded into darkness, Emily found herself alone in the silent ballroom, her heart pounding with a mixture of awe and terror. It was then that she realized the true nature of the haunting melody. It was not merely a piece of music but a conduit for the spirits trapped within the manor's walls. With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, Emily knew that she had unwittingly become a part of something far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. For in the depths of the Montague Manor, the past held sway over the present, and the price of curiosity was steep indeed. As Emily tried to flee the ballroom, she found the once grand doors sealed shut, as if by an invisible force. Panic seized her as she pounded on the wood, pleading for release, but her cries were swallowed by the oppressive silence of the manor. With each passing moment, the shadows seemed to creep closer, their tendrils reaching out to ensnare her in their icy grasp. Desperation clawed at Emily's mind as she frantically searched for a means of escape, but the walls of the ballroom offered no solace, their ornate decorations mocking her futile attempts to break free. Suddenly, a ghostly figure materialized before her, its features twisted into a mask of anguish. It was the spirit of the tormented musician, his spectral form flickering in and out of existence like a candle in the wind. His eyes bore into Emily's soul, filled with a longing that transcended the bounds of the mortal realm. In that moment, Emily understood the true horror of her situation. She was trapped within the confines of the manor, at the mercy of the vengeful spirits that lurked in its shadows. And as the haunting melody echoed through the halls once more, she realized with a sinking feeling that she would never escape the curse that had claimed so many lives before her. With a final, desperate cry, Emily surrendered to the darkness, knowing that her fate was sealed. For in the heart of the Montague Manor, the line between the living and the dead was blurred, and those who dared to venture into its depths were doomed to become just another haunting melody in the symphony of the damned. Story 3: The Mirror's Reflection. Within the Montague Manor, a grand mirror loomed, its surface clouded with age and mystery. The ornate frame, carved with intricate designs of twisted vines and snarling beasts, seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, drawing the curious and the unsuspecting alike. Drawn by an inexplicable urge, Sarah, the eldest of the Montague siblings, dared to gaze into its depths. As her reflection stared back at her, a shiver ran down her spine, for there was something unsettling about the way her own eyes seemed to gleam with a malevolent light. Unperturbed by the ominous aura that surrounded the mirror, Sarah reached out a trembling hand, her fingertips brushing against the cold glass. In that instant, the world around her seemed to shift and warp, and she found herself plunged into a realm beyond comprehension. The mirror's surface rippled like water, revealing a twisted reflection of the manor's halls. Shadows danced at the edges of Sarah's vision, their forms flickering in and out of existence like phantoms in the night. And amidst the chaos, a voice whispered in her ear, its words dripping with malice. Trapped within the mirror's grasp, Sarah's screams echoed through the manor, a chilling reminder of the price of curiosity. For in the cursed depths of the Montague estate, the line between reality and illusion was forever blurred, and those who dared to peer into the abyss were condemned to wander its haunted halls for all eternity. As Sarah's reflection stared back at her with mocking eyes, she realized with a sinking feeling that she had become just another victim of the malevolent inheritance that had plagued her family for generations. And as the darkness closed in around her, she knew that there was no escape from the twisted fate that awaited her within the cursed mirror's embrace. As Sarah struggled against the suffocating grasp of the mirror's enchantment, she felt her sense of self slip away, consumed by the relentless tide of darkness that threatened to engulf her. Desperation clawed at her mind as she searched for a means of escape, but the cursed glass seemed to hold her in an iron grip, its surface cold and unyielding beneath her trembling fingertips. With each passing moment, the mirror's influence grew stronger, its malevolent presence seeping into Sarah's very soul. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, twisting and contorting in unnatural shapes, while whispers of long-forgotten secrets echoed through the chamber like a sinister choir. In a final, desperate bid for freedom, Sarah mustered all her strength and shattered the mirror with a resounding crash. But instead of bringing an end to her torment, the broken shards only served to magnify the darkness, scattering fragments of her fractured reflection across the room like shards of a shattered soul. As Sarah's consciousness faded into oblivion, she realized with a sinking feeling that she had become trapped within the cursed mirror's fractured realm, a prisoner of her own curiosity. And as the echoes of her screams faded into the darkness, she knew that she would wander the haunted halls of the Montague Manor for all eternity, a spectral reminder of the price of unlocking the secrets that lay hidden within its depths. Story 4: The Spectral Masquerade. On the eve of the annual Montague Masquerade, the manor's grand halls were adorned with decadent decor and flickering candlelight. Among the guests, Charlotte, a distant relative seeking to claim her share of the family fortune, donned her mask and ventured into the festivities. As she mingled with the other guests, Charlotte couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at the edges of her consciousness. The air was heavy with anticipation, and whispers of the manor's dark history hung like a pall over the gathering. Despite her misgivings, Charlotte was determined to uncover the truth behind her family's curse, no matter the cost. With each passing moment, the masquerade grew more elaborate, the masks serving as a facade to hide the secrets that lurked beneath. But as the night wore on, the masks began to slip, revealing the true faces of the guests beneath. Hollow-eyed specters drifted through the crowd, their movements slow and deliberate as they beckoned Charlotte closer with skeletal fingers. In a moment of terror, Charlotte tore off her mask, only to find her own reflection staring back at her, twisted and contorted with madness. The other guests recoiled in horror as she stumbled backward, her mind reeling with the realization that she had become trapped within a nightmarish masquerade of her own making. As the spectral figures closed in around her, Charlotte felt a chill grip her heart, knowing that she was powerless to escape the curse that had claimed so many lives before her. And as the echoes of her screams reverberated through the manor's halls, she knew with a sinking feeling that she would join the ranks of the tormented spirits that haunted its depths for all eternity. The music swelled to a discordant crescendo, filling the air with a cacophony of haunting melodies that seemed to reverberate through Charlotte's very soul. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, twisting and contorting in grotesque shapes as the masquerade descended into madness. Desperation clawed at Charlotte's mind as she searched for a means of escape, but the walls of the manor seemed to press in around her, trapping her in a labyrinth of twisted corridors and hidden passageways. With each step she took, the shadows seemed to close in, their icy tendrils wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. As Charlotte stumbled through the darkness, she felt a presence watching her from the shadows, its eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, she realized that she was not alone in the cursed depths of the Montague Manor. In a final, desperate bid for freedom, Charlotte turned to flee, but a spectral figure materialized before her, blocking her path with outstretched arms. It was the spirit of the manor's long-deceased matriarch, her features twisted into a mask of anguish as she reached out to claim Charlotte's soul as her own. With nowhere left to run, Charlotte surrendered to the darkness, knowing that her fate was sealed. For in the haunted depths of the Montague Manor, the sins of the past held sway over the present, and those who dared to uncover its secrets were condemned to join the spectral masquerade for all eternity. As the spectral figure closed in on Charlotte, its ghostly presence enveloped her in a chilling embrace, sending shivers down her spine. The echoes of her frantic heartbeat drowned out the sounds of the masquerade, and the world around her seemed to blur into a nightmarish haze. With a voice as cold as death itself, the spirit whispered the secrets of the manor's dark history into Charlotte's ear, each word dripping with malice and despair. Memories of past tragedies flashed before her eyes, each more horrifying than the last, as she realized the true extent of the curse that had plagued her family for generations. In a moment of clarity, Charlotte understood the price of her curiosity, the cost of delving too deeply into the shadows that lurked within the Montague Manor. With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, she knew that there was no escape from the fate that awaited her in the cursed halls of the ancestral estate. As the spectral masquerade closed in around her, Charlotte felt herself being pulled into the darkness, consumed by the same malevolent force that had claimed the souls of so many before her. With a final, despairing cry, she surrendered to the inevitable, knowing that her destiny was sealed. And as the echoes of her screams faded into the darkness, the cursed manor seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, its walls bearing witness to yet another tragic chapter in the long and bloody history of the Montague family. For in the depths of the haunted manor, the spirits of the past held sway over the present, and those who dared to uncover its secrets were doomed to become just another footnote in its twisted legacy.